Welcome to She Who Heals, the spiritual business podcast for healers to take up space and talk about the services they provide. When healers serve more lives, more people are able to live in the peace and joy this world has to offer. I'm your host, healer, and spiritual business coach, Alyssa K. Barrios. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of She Who Heals. Today, we have a very exciting episode for you. We are interviewing our first ever healer and guest of the show. Avree Howard is here with me, and she currently lives in Houston, Texas, but is originally from Long Beach, California. She's a healer who utilizes human design and Reiki as a way to help empaths set energetic boundaries and strengthen their natural gifts. I am so excited to welcome Avree onto our show. Hi, Avree. How are you?
I am so good and so honored to be here on your podcast as your first interview. Wow. So many activations when you were just speaking right now, all through my chakras. I'm just like, oh yes, this is what you've been waiting for.
I love that. Thank you so much. I am so honored that you are actually the first guest of She Who Heals. And I'm really excited to talk more about you and your journey as a healer, because I've personally experienced your healing and it has literally transformed my life, the way I see and view myself, and my business. So before we begin, I'd love to talk a little bit about you and where you and your family come from. So do you mind sharing with us your ancestral lineage? Where are you guys from? Where's your family from?
So my family is actually so I've done lineage is something that I was very, very interested in from a young age. I thought, where do we come from? What is our reasoning? What's our family's background and history? I found that so fascinating. And so, of course, when that DNA test came around, my whole life I'm walking around. My family is Native American. All right. They come from Oklahoma, but originally they are from Tennessee. So it is a tribe called Yuchi, and they're a very kind of small tribe. They used to be more influential and stuff, but now it's just a small group of them. So that's on my father's side. We have Native American and English. And then on my mother's side, there's more European, Portuguese, Spanish. But my DNA doesn't split down the middle. So mostly when you look at it, it's just mostly English, Irish, and all that. But I really always resonated with the Native American side. Ever since I was little, before the DNA test happened, I was asking my grandma, what was this Native American, heritage about? I wanted to know more. We went to a couple of powwows when I was little. There was something that I was so pulled to this type of living in these people. And I just found them so sacred. And I'm 5 years old,
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you for sharing. I've never done one of those DNA tests, but it sounds like it was confirmation from where you were from, but also you already knew where you were from because you had been studying at such a young age, discovering more about your family and really being curious about what their cultures were like. That's amazing. So the podcast is called She Who Heals. So it's really about healers who are stepping into their healer's journey, how they discovered their healing, when they discovered their healing, and then what their role is now as a healer. So when did you realize you were a healer?
I feel like I really started to step into my healing abilities probably when I was 24, 26, but little inklings of it my whole life. When you are where you're now, and then you can look back when you're younger, you see all those things that were coming out and you're like, oh, I've always been like this, right? It's just life kind of will take you down a different road, or you let other people's influences I really want to say, like, I really started coming into it around 24 years old when I decided I was going to leave the city I grew up in and go on my own path. And that's when I started to, I just knew I was not going to be successful and I was not going to become the person that I needed to be or that I wanted to be in the place I was currently living. It was too toxic for me. So that's kind of when I was like, and I don't know if I necessarily saw myself as a healer at that point, but looking back now, I definitely was like on the healer's journey, put my little satchel on, and I was like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to make my own way.
Yeah, I feel like as a healer, when you really step into your journey, it's really about, like you just said, putting your backpack on and knowing that, okay, I'm here to do something different. And that means going and venturing alone. So let's talk about, when did you first start receiving the healing and notice that you were starting to heal yourself?
I started to heal myself was when I enrolled in college by myself, like a state college. And at 24 years old, before, like, I felt like I was always, and I felt like it was never good enough. And the place I grew up and my home that I grew up in did not have a lot of good energies there. I grew up around a parent who was very, really, really did not like himself slash doesn't, and so I, as an empath, took that on my whole life, and I became that identity. Your parents, you mimic them, you mirror them. So I just grew up with really, really low self-esteem and never really thought I was going to be anything good, let alone go to a state college. I just didn't feel smart enough or deserving, or that, that's something that someone like me could do. So I started knowing that I was a healer and started healing myself when I moved away, and I set my goal and my sights higher. I was like, I want to go back into psychology. I had always wanted to be a psychologist, probably from high school, when a dear friend, and even before that, but when a friend in the close circle, she took her own life. And at a young age, when you're like 16 years old, seeing how somebody who you thought had the world, in the palm of their hands, loved by everybody, basically, could be in such a darkness. And that's also, at the same time, after that was when I started to develop my own depression because of being in a toxic relationship. That whole thing of not wanting people to ever feel that way about themselves, where they wanted to take their light out of this world, is what, that was the big catapult of me and my healing journey in general, because I was like, I want to be a psychologist. I want to work with teens. I don't want a teenager to ever feel like they need to make that decision, or that that's, their end all. I started to go to school back in when I moved, and I was going there for psychology. And then when I was out there, I met my now current husband, and we got together and ended up in Texas. So that kind of took like a fork in the road. And I decided I didn't want to go back to college because I guess I wasn't really aligning with the college structure, and it's not for everybody. And, I think for a long time I was trying to push myself in that box of like, in order to help people heal, I need to have a degree, which isn't the case. Now that I'm in Texas, I continue to try to like figure things out. I went to culinary school a while back, so I was here in Texas and I started cooking again. Again, I ended up in this very toxic, the kitchen and the restaurant industry. I don't know why it's not a thing that people don't like go out and talk about it, but it's toxic. It's super toxic. Lots of drinking, lots of self-hatred, lots of rushing. So I was there again, and I'm like, why is it that I keep kind of coming to these, what feels like dead ends, or blaming myself? And while I'm in the kitchen, thinking, okay, I've got to see a psychiatrist. There's something wrong with me because I can't, no matter what I do, find happiness. And in that moment, when I had made an appointment, was going to see a psychiatrist and a therapist, which there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. I have seen them before. I've been on medication, and everyone has their own road to wellness. But in that moment, when I was thinking that, I'll never forget this moment. I'm sitting there working at my station in the kitchen, and two two superiors and one coworker, they bring up that they're on medication for their anxiety and depression. And then the other two also say something about how they're on medication. And I'm like, everybody around me is on medication right now. Everyone around me is on medication. I just can't, there's something not right in the world where, 4 out of 5 people are on medication. That's just because they're not happy or because they're anxious. There has to be a root issue here. I just knew it. And that for me, that was a divine intervention. I could see these people as 3 angels that came in and were like, bam, bam, bam. And something inside of me, yeah, that's like a life-changing moment for me. And I discussed that with my husband, and I told him that, and he also told me in his field, which is in a corporate office, after a bad meeting, somebody will go and take like a Xanax. And I'm like, we're living like this that's not okay. We're not supposed to be functioning like that as human beings. There has to be something we can do. There has to be something we can do. And I just knew there had to be a more holistic way. And, lo and behold, as we do and as a healer, when those things and those signs are happening, we're like, whoa, you have that kind of, the veil comes, right? The veil lifts.
Yes. Yeah.
And after that, I talked to our good friend Jasmine, and she told me she was working with you with a chakra cleanse. Yes. And it was basically, I was pulled to do that. And after that, it was no looking back.
I didn't realize how you were signed up to work with me in that original healing program that I offered back in, I think, 2019. I didn't realize it was after all that had happened. Wow, what divine alignment that is when you are on the journey. It's like, what I'm hearing is you knew that there was something going on within you and you were looking for help. And the help that you had found was something that didn't feel aligned to you. And it actually, again, you were sent confirmation from the angels that you were working with that didn't align with you and that wasn't for you. And then you were able to enroll in a healing program. Did you know about healing before you enrolled in the program? What made you enroll in the program? I know we just mentioned it, but you were pretty confident in that decision. I remember you were like, this is it. It's now or never.
It's the being a healer. I've always been one, you've always been one. When the veil is lifted, you realize the world you're living in and the box you've been put in your whole life is not really, that's why you weren't happy, because you were trying to be somebody else's idea of perfection and not your own. But I had known about healing and heard about healing growing up in Long Beach. It's a pretty diverse place. So they do have, yoga and spiritual people, but I only ever dabbled in it a little bit there. I knew about Reiki. I knew about the chakra systems a little bit, but I had never really experienced either of them or wasn't really knowledgeable. So, but it honestly felt like a now or never, like a life or death situation for me. So I knew I had taken therapy before. I knew I had seen a psychiatrist. I knew I had taken pills. And none of those had worked for me, So you come to that point where you're like, you got nothing to lose.
Wow. I resonate so deeply with what you said about it feels like a life or death situation, because experiencing a loss of someone that you saw the light in at 16 and knowing that you were going down this road of feeling so unhappy. Like for me, when I went into my now or never life or death situation before I worked with a healer, I had really gone through an experience that made me just become so destructive. And I did not want to be that person ever again. And I realized it's either now that I really work on figuring out why I can act this way and why these type of emotions can come out, especially when I'm around certain people or I'm engaging in certain activities such as substances that were mostly talked about in my circle of friends and family as a fun activity to do. And in reality, when you start to zoom out, you realize how actually toxic it is and how others around you are not engaging in it as a fun way. Instead, it's a very destructive way. So I can resonate so much with this idea, like it's now or never, because I don't want to find out what more destruction I can create in my life. Because like you said, it's a life or death. And to be honest and fair, I mean, we've all dealt with a lot of death around us, whether it's people in our lives that are really close to us, or we may have heard of those crazy accidents that have happened to others. So what has been your experience? What was your experience like working with a healer? Can you kind of share what the program was like? And I know it was my program, so I guess I can also say what it was. It was a 9-week healing journey where you really studied your own chakra system and how to cleanse your chakra system and how to tap into your chakra system. And for those listening, your chakras are your 7 main energetic points throughout your whole body. You start with your root, which connects you deeper to your ancestors and your lineage. And then you reach all the way up to your 7th chakra, which is your crown. And that connects you really deep to source energy and spirit and God. So can you share what your experience was like in that first journey? Because that was the first time you had committed to a 9-week healing program with a healer, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. I love that you went a little bit over the chakras, because that root chakra, like you said, that was obviously the first week that we went on. And even then you just start seeing signs like, you're walking, because you're becoming more in tune with your soul is what you're doing when you're doing this. You're starting to look inward, no more looking outward and really trying to grasp at anything that sticks to find the answer. No more shortcuts. You're slowing down. You're meditating, you're connecting back with nature, like things that we have never been taught, not on this side of the world, not in this day and age, but things that are so vital to our health as humans. And it was just mind-blowing to see, like, all I really needed was to slow down, take a slow walk, breathe the air, close my eyes, tune in with my body, sit next to a tree, and the healing just took over. It was basically effortless after that. And this whole time we're thinking we have to take a pill or drink, some alcohol or substance abuse, like you were saying. But it's like, go outside. And it was just like, what? It's been so simple this whole time, but we're not doing it. So I think as a civilization, we've really grown away from the things that really bring us peace and attunement with this universe and the earth itself, which the earth itself is healing. Going back into the root, you said like ancestors, and since we started off with ancestors, I got this very strong message, and I'm sure you remember, but I remember telling you while I was on a walk, I just got this download, like my intuition and my ancestors had communicated to me, and they said, you are the one, like, you are the one that's going to do the healing. You are the chosen one. And starting off my first ever type of, working with a healer before, that message came in and I was like, who? Me? Like, who am I? What am I going to do? But I didn't question it. I continued down, and working with you and working with a healer, honestly, it's life-changing. Like, it's an investment in yourself. It is working with somebody who's not trying to diagnose you, not trying to put a label on you, not trying to fix you, but trying to be a space where you can generally come and just be yourself, whether that day you're crying, all right, whether in the sessions we're laughing, and there's no subject that's off limits, right? Everything is kind of open, and that was really freeing. I had never been in a space where I didn't feel so judged. Like most spaces that you come into, I always felt judged, and so that's what working with a healer was for me. It was just like, you never tried to judge me. You always let me kind of figure it out on my own. And every little celebration that I had, or every little new experience, you were always like, yes, yes. It was like having a cheerleader, but not necessarily just a cheerleader, but I still got told, I still got told some things when I needed the tough love. But for the most part, healers are just places where you can go and just be received with open arms. And I think that's what a healer is somebody who stands in integrity and stands in their own authenticity, but also realizes, that the other person, I don't want the other person to be like me. I don't want to put judgments on them. I want them to be themselves. And that's what we need, right? We need more spaces like that where people can be feel free to be themselves. And that's what a healer does. They hold space like for that.
And that's what makes me so proud of being a healer and makes this job so aligned to who I am, because it's really perfect to see and be a part of the encouraging of others to be who they are and to tap into their truths, because each one of us has a special gift that is literally here to help others in their own way. So it's really exciting to be able to just step back and watch the journey unfold for each client who decides to go on the healer's journey, because you get to witness the layers shedding away, everything that's maybe kept them stuck or kept them feeling like they were broken or convinced them that something was wrong with them. No, the more you unravel those layers within yourself, you're able to step deeper into your gifts, because your gifts are big time needed. So let's talk about you. Congratulations. You are a healer. You've really stepped into being a healer for others. You started off with a healer, such as myself, and now you've committed to helping others on their healing journey. Can you share how that's been for you?
Oh, it has been, I'm not even going to lie. It's been like one of the hardest, but also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. You know, not every day, and not even, I don't want to speak in days, because I go, I'm an emotional, I'm an emotional projector. I don't know if we'll talk a little bit about human design, but, so I have lots of waves of emotions, and stepping into being a healer has been amazing, because I get to sit back and just kind of watch myself unfold in those ways and not judge myself either. So by working with a healer, I felt the non-judgment. And then I started being like, whoa, I'm not going to judge myself anymore either, because, you know, we're our own worst critics. But continuing down the healer path, I mean, there's you up level, and then there's something in your face. Do you really want this? Is this really what you want? Like, and you're like, is it? No, it gets easier. Those, the shadows, right? The shadows, they come up, and I don't think that honestly they will ever go away, because I think it's a part of the human experience to, you know, it keeps us grounded. It really does. It keeps us grounded.
Can you share one of your most recent, I want to call them universal tests. Like, do you really want this or not? Can you share like a recent one? I know I kind of just put you on the spot there, but for the viewers to understand what we overcome, and that we're not living this perfect aligned life. I mean, it's perfectly aligned, but it doesn't feel that way all the time.
Yes. So you can put me on the spot any day. I actually think I thrive being on the spot. You're asking a projector if they want to share information. I'm like, you bet I do. Um, so one of the shadows that came up for me recently was, I'm right now in the process of creating a, you know, program, or giving birth really is what it feels like right now. I'm giving birth to something, and it's very scary. But you know, when God kind of gives you these things, I stopped questioning. I don't question anymore, because I have faith, and it's always led me to every place I needed to be. It's always led me into a place of bliss. And, you know, to get to the bliss, there's growth pains, if you will. But one of the shadows that I've come up recently is when I decided to take on the title as empath, or use, you know, that word in my business. And this word, like, there's something about it that, like, it's very triggering for me. And I think it's because it's kind of aligned with being of the victim mentality. Being a victim, I'm an empath. I'm very sensitive. I take in others' energies. I take in the universe's energies. So they're like, and I guess that's other people's opinions, and I've let it affect me. Like, I'm still human. I'm a healer, but I'm still human. So I've let their stuff affect me. And then even more, it's snowballed a little bit. And of course, right, when that happens, you start to see things. I'm seeing things on Instagram about empaths. Are you an empath, or are you a narcissist? And I'm like, am I a narcissist? And so I'm questioning my own, you know, my own integrity here. And I'm like, are you even an empath, or are you a narcissist, or, you know, are you even a good person? So these are the type of things as a healer when you up level, when God or the divine and the universe calls you into a next step, right? There's always going to be like a new boss, right? If we play video games, like the new boss, it's going to be like, is this something you want? And of course it's scary, but on the other side, it's always better. Like, fear is safe. Fear is safe. It's not a bad thing to be scared, you know? And the thing we have to remember is, as healers, we're always protected. We're always protected. Our mission here is one of, great divine service. And when you have that as your mission, how can you fail?
Yeah, I agree. And I think I really connect with the word empath being triggering, because for me too, at the beginning of being a healer, most healers are empathic, and it was hard for me to connect with that word, but it was hard for me because being empathic was really painful growing up, right? Growing up with those around you who are narcissistic, or growing up around abuse and pain and trauma, you carry that as an empath because you're energetically completely open. That's a gift of being an empathic being. So being empathic was like a reminder of how much of a sensitive I was. But at the time, I had to remind myself that it is a gift. It isn't a consequence. It doesn't make me weaker. It actually makes me stronger, which has created this incredible experience as a healer. So I definitely can resonate with the word empath at first being hard to accept, only because there definitely is healing that has to come within ourselves, and that new identity, not even new identity, but that identity of something that we weren't really taught about, which actually has a lot of great gift and power, right? So you currently have a healer's business. Why did you decide to create a healing business?
I decided to create a healing business because God told me to. Short, sweet, and to the point. That's my answer.
How did God tell you to? Did you hear him? Did you write it?
No, it's more of, for me, my stuff comes in my body, like my, the different types of ways that you receive intuition or your knowing. So for mine, mine's just usually in my body, and it's something that will come to me, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's some people, I'm not super familiar on all the different clairs, but the hearing, the seeing, all those different ones. So mine's more of the body one. So whichever one that is. And it was when you were doing your spiritual business program, the second round, and it was before that. And I'm like, I had gone back and forth, first round, I wasn't ready, and I trusted that I wasn't ready. And then the second round was coming around, and I kept getting that like feeling, and it's like that push, like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to sell. I don't know what a program is. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I had to do it. And even getting to that point of signing up, I had my own challenges, right? The own universal lessons of like, are you sure you want this? And I'm like, so like when you are a healer, and when you take the healer's journey, your connection to, God and source is stronger. You hear the calls, however it comes to you, and then you have to get through it. You have no idea how you're going to get through it, but you know that the pieces of the puzzles, when you trust and you continue on, they fall in alignment into a vision bigger than you could have even expected. So that's why I did it, because God told me to, and so I'm doing it. That's my answer. And I want to, and my reasoning and my intention has always been to help other people and to help them become empowered, help heal people who have gone through things that you have gone through. So in my story, I went from, very low confidence, self-loathing, self-abuse, negative self-talk, thinking I'm nothing, to somebody who inspires and empowers others on a daily basis, and like completely is in love with myself. And, I couldn't have imagined that even, 6 years ago. I couldn't have imagined that I would be this person that I am today. And once you start healing, right, it's like lightning speed. That's why I decided to start a business. I guess it's in my DNA.
Yeah. It was in alignment with who you are and what you're doing here on this lifetime and this earth. And the lightning speed, I literally just said it in our most recent podcast, the second episode. It's in lightning speed because you no longer have limits. You're literally unveiling all that has kept you stuck. So, of course, you're limitless and you start creating and receiving past your wildest dreams. So, let's talk about your business. What does Avree Howard, the healer, stay busy with? What are you creating? What do you offer people?
So right now I am currently working with empaths, and right with it's because that's just funny thinking about that with it, that being the shadow. But I love how God and I love how the divine really uses your darkness to bring out light. Like it's that's so amazing. So I'm going to be working with empaths, and I'm going to utilize their human design to help them set up boundaries and help them strengthen their gifts. So, what that looks like is if you don't know what human design is, it is a system based off of your birth time, birth date, birth location, and then it creates a body graph. And in this body graph, it has 9 different energy centers. You can think about the chakras, and now since we're evolving as a human species, we're going from 7 chakras to a 9 chakra system. So in this body graph, it shows these different shapes that are associated with those different energy centers. And some of us have open centers, and when your center is open, it looks like it's white. And when it's white, you take in and amplify other people's energies and the energies of the cosmos. So when that happens and you're an empath who's unaware of your human design, you can feel overwhelmed, anxious. You can get angry if you're around certain people. You basically, you have all these different highs and lows and you don't even know what's going on. So you're feeling these things very intensely. Now, when you know your human design and you're an empath, you can become empowered in your own design and start setting those energetic boundaries to know that, hey, this is how I am. This is my energy. And yes, I'm open in this space and I may take in and amplify, but this is a gift. I'm not going to look at it as like, oh, this is something that just happens to me and I can't control it. No, you can control it. And not only that, you can feel this person's energy, and then you get to have more empathy for them, and being able to see from all those different perspectives of people and holding space, setting your boundary, getting stronger in your gifts, knowing what is somebody else's and what is yours, and then being able to hold space. And you're going to be so empowered as an empath. And that's any person you come in contact with is going to know that they are safe and held by you and seen by you. And that's what the world needs right now. And in the same time, you're also going to be feeling better energetically. You're not going to be as drained as an empath. You're not going to feel overwhelmed when you go into big spaces. You're going to be able to protect your aura more. So this knowledge is really going to help empaths be able to walk the whole earth and feel super empowered in their own body, their own gift, and know that yes, it can take in, but they don't have to let it consume them. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I do healing human design readings for empaths to show them this chart and explain it to them and give them steps about how they can, protect their own energy and help others. And then soon launching a program or mentorship with empaths. I really like to work with somebody on a longer basis and help them develop even more in their empath skills and knowing their human design.
Wow. Congratulations on that new venture you're going to be stepping into. I really know what it feels like to go on a journey with a client, especially an empath who is a healer, if that's what they choose to commit to. And as a healer who is literally here to support and guide and even protect healers, it makes me so proud and grateful to hear that your business and your offerings is to really empower and protect the empath, for them to understand how they can keep themselves safe energetically. So, of course, they can continue to make an impact, but also, again, as a healer who is here supporting and guiding and protecting her healers, you guys are like my number one. So that feels really good to know that you're doing that for empaths. So what could a session look like for you? Let's talk about, how do you prepare for those sessions? What is the life in a healer? What does the life look like for a healer?
Ooh, the life for a healer looks like one, taking care of yourself first, right? It's doing whatever your morning routine is. I like to I like to have mine with a little bit of openness. So I wake up and I instantly know, today, do I need to journal? Do I need to pray? Um, do I need to stretch and move my body? Do I need to dance? So I listen to that. I give myself, like, I like a long morning, drinking my coffee or whatever my morning beverage is. And yeah, then I will dive into people's designs. So whatever client I'm working with, going into their chart, reading their charts. And I love reading people's charts, and just even looking at their charts and their body graphs, I can see a story. I love that I'm able to take that story and tell it to the empaths and them feel so seen and recognized and be like, wow. So when you use human design too, it's a recognition tool. You get to look back and reflect. You get to feel seen and heard and know, like, wow, I'm just here to just be myself, right? Like, imperfectly perfect. I'm here to be nobody else. I don't have to put myself in a box anymore. And then as an empath, you get to say, wow, I knew it all along, these spaces I have open, because I've always felt that way. And then you get that confirmation. And then as soon as you have that awareness, bam, that's when the wisdom comes in. And in those open spaces is the biggest place you get to have wisdom. So in a session with somebody, I will tell them a little bit about human design, and then we will get started on their chart. And then at the end, I love to incorporate Reiki healing to help them integrate all the information that they just got into their body. So I found this to be something I wanted to do right away, was integrate my readings with Reiki, because I had been in readings before and it's just a bunch of information dump on you. Not that the people who gave me astrology readings and human design readings before weren't amazing. They were, and they're really knowledgeable. I just felt like, wow, this is a lot. And the terms I didn't quite understand. And then I'm like, I felt overwhelmed. So, of course, the powerful magic of Reiki. So I wanted to say, how can I, after this, make this the best session possible for somebody so that they walk away feeling relaxed and empowered? And that was obviously Reiki. So I do a Reiki session with them after, so that Reiki takes the mind out of it, just like human design does too. Takes the mind out of it, lets the body relax, and then all of that energy and all of that information can just be completely absorbed into your being. So that's what a session looks like for me. And then also I give them implementation steps. So I like to send over the recording, my typed notes, and then I will let them know, hey, here's how you can take this information and actually make it applicable. So that's why I love human design. It's not just something that tells you who you are. It's also like, hey, this is something you can actually use in your life to help you bring peace, satisfaction, success. And yeah, so you get to walk away with that information and actually be able to take it right into your day and feel at peace. I mean,
I love that. I love that. And I love your work. So I've done your human design service before, and the way you typed it out for me, I literally refer back to it all the time. I don't think you know this, but I literally have it saved in my phone because I know my not self theme from your service as a manifester. I know my human design not self theme is anger. And I don't always get angry with others, but I can get angry and frustrated with myself. So when I notice that not self theme coming up, I check in with the human design text that you sent me, and then it starts clicking and I start understanding, this is why I care so much. This is why my energy goes to this. And it's because that's literally what I'm here to do, is to navigate and discover why relationships are so important in this human life and why money is so beneficial for our communities. Like, that's literally what I'm here to do, and it feels good. But I didn't know all of that until working with you as a human design healer. And I'll be honest, I'll be really honest. I hit my biggest month I've ever hit after our session together. And I've worked with business coaches and I've paid a lot of people for their help. Nothing compared to the way I felt about my energy, my purpose, and even my confidence in the but my confidence in what I talked about and what I taught and what I wanted to study. was finally there. So I was able to fully show up. And by fully showing up, I was able to fully receive. And girl, I had my biggest month from your human design healing session. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I love hearing that. I love hearing after from my sessions, the realizations that people are having. They're like, whoa, I don't have to do all these things I thought I had to do. And they all, of course, when they hear their information, all these things start to click for them. You can look back on your life and see all the times where you were, forcing yourself into situations. And that's why you kept hitting burnout after burnout. Or you can have the confirmation that you had and realize, wow, I really am here to do this. And I knew I was, but now I have that, like, the universe is literally saying that to me. It says it right here. And I don't have to be sorry, and I don't have to feel sorry about that anymore. Like, I get to just, and also the reflection, like when I'm starting to feel and my not self, when I'm starting to do that, you can look back and say, oh, okay, it's time to like step back. It's a loving awareness of yourself is what it is. Not trying to necessarily look at this as a negative, because there's conscious and there's unconscious. So there's things that are just going to be a part of you, and there's no really changing them. And it's not about changing them. It's about loving them. It's about seeing them when they're happening and loving them and loving yourself and having grace for yourself. That's what it's about.
Okay, I know what I'm doing after this call. I want to go back into my human design. So what's been your experience being a healer who owns her own business? How's that been? Serving others, studying your healing gifts, having healing community.
Oh, it's the best thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world because I finally have a community and I finally have a connection that I have been so longing for my whole life. Like that loneliness is no longer there. As I stepped into the healer that I always was, it's like I don't feel lonely anymore. I don't feel like the conversations I'm having are pointless. Like I feel like I'm doing something good. That how my healing experience has been. Community is so important as being a healer. You need other people who see the universe like you do, helps you stay sane. Not that I would ever say that I embrace my crazy now. I like it.
You mentioned that it was really hard at first stepping into the gifts and the business side. What has been the hardest part about creating your business as a healer?
The hardest part is the limiting beliefs. It's the thinking, honestly, it's probably about money and charging for your services. Like that's been the hardest part. Thinking that before, all those limiting beliefs I always thought, and I think maybe a lot of healers and empaths do feel like this because if, we are sensitive, we have taken on other people's beliefs, thinking I'm not good enough to ask people for money for a service. Like, why would people pay me? What do I have to offer? Who am I? Like, so that reoccurring limiting belief. And that's the hardest thing, was to know and come to the point of like, yeah, I am worthy of being paid for my services, because what I do, like we said, what a healer is, I hold space for a I hold a non-judgmental space for people, and whatever that looks like and whatever service I'm offering, that is the ultimate gift there. And that is a really big gift, and it does take energy. And healers do deserve to be paid for their services because we are helping people, we're helping shine light on the darkness that people have. And as you help others, you help yourself. But that was the hardest part. It's definitely like, hey, are you going to make this, like, here's a money goal, and I'm like, I don't know, that seems like a lot. Like, could I make that much on my own being a healer? And like, you absolutely can. And other people and other healers are doing it. So why not you?
Yeah, definitely. Something I noticed too about being a healer is I can only show up fully for my clients, which is what they deserve, because I understand the impact that my healing does for others. And I understand how beneficial it is for not only the client I'm working with, but for everyone else they come in contact with, whether that's their children, their spouses, their mothers or fathers, families, friends, the job that they're looking for, the test that they're preparing for. Like, I know that the sessions and the healing they receive from not just me, but also how it's going to transform their entire life. And if I'm not fully taken care of, I can't fully show up for them. And then it becomes a less effective form of healing. So for healers, I mean, we really do have to make sure that we are fully taken care of and trusting that wherever our desires are guiding us, that that's only because we are here to fill ourselves even more, because we're here to give even more, right? So not feeling guilty of my self-care sessions with my Reiki massage therapist, not feeling guilty for only being able to have fresh juice and fresh organic produce. Like, I don't make the rules in my country that it's very, very expensive for fresh produce to be the way it's priced. It's not my fault. But what I do know is my body craves that. And so that's what I do have to feed myself so I can be of best service to those that I'm serving. So again, the ripple effect can go into their future endeavors, their families, their friends. Like, that's the beautiful part of a healer too, is knowing how deeply we care about not the result, the tangible result, but the result of all of those who are involved. We care about our client, but we also care about how they're making an impact, which is like the ripple effect is huge. So something that has been a challenge that I've noticed healers I work with who are stepping into building their businesses and healers I talk to who are struggling in their businesses is pricing their services to meet their desires and needs, but then not be able to sell their service because someone says they cannot afford it. Has that happened to you? How have you addressed, and what's your mindset around those who aren't able to afford your services right away, or they say they can't afford it right then and there?
I love that question. So that has happened to me. I've had people who are interested in readings and they will say they're interested in them, and we go back and forth a little bit. For me, I never want to try to push or convince someone that they need my service, and that will, I want them to come to their own conclusion that this is something that they want and will help them on their healing journey. And usually, if they feel like it's too much, they usually have told me before, like, hey, okay, I'm going to save for it and then I'll get back to you. And I'm like, okay. And I just continue to be like a loving support for them, continuing my relationship with them in a loving way, which is what I do. There's no like, evil intentions or like, I have to make this sale. That's not how I am. And that's not how healers should be operating. We should know that like our services are potent, and if the person is meant to work with us, they will. But yeah, I think it's very important for healers to stick to their boundaries when it comes to their services and when it comes to people paying for their services. Like, yeah, you can give people specials every once in a while, but I think only if you feel called. And if somebody is, I know as empaths too, right? We want to think like, oh, well, maybe I can help work. I'm sure there's so many people who are like, maybe we can work this out, or give them different payment options, or maybe give them a deal off, or any whatever it is. I feel like when you're doing that with somebody, you're really like not letting them go through the journey that they need to go through to make those breakthroughs, because we keep doing like, okay, well, here you go. And that doesn't really make them feel like I'm doing this on my own. And that's part of the healing journey too. You have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself. It may start off with a different reason, you may be inspired to do it for some other reason. But if you start your healing journey thinking like, I can't afford it, but the I can'ts, right? It's all about your thought process and what you're saying to yourself. So if you're already like, I can't afford this, or like, not now, right? It's not the right time. Well, when will it be the right time, or when can you afford it? The moment is always now. Like, time, right, is an illusion. Everything is happening right now. So you get to decide how the timeline goes for yourself. But also, all of us have done it. All of us have invested in ourselves as a healer. Like, we've all taken those risks, if you want to, call them those risks, but we've all done it. So if somebody is not willing to do that, then maybe it's not the service for them. And that's okay. Like, I hope they find the healing that they're searching for. And I hope they finally tell themselves they are worthy of that investment.
And I think that's so important to identify too. It's like, maybe we don't make that sell right then, but at least we're staying strong in showing the value of what healing services are and teaching the world right now what healing services are, why they are so impactful, and why the investment is not going to devalue itself Because if we devalue our service, we devalue ourselves as healers, and we devalue the experience that we are literally here to be giving others. And then impacting and rippling affecting only devalued service and energy. And that's not at all what we are here doing. So thank you for sharing so much. I know you weren't prepared with some of these business questions. So do you want to talk a little bit about your human design and services? Actually, no, can you talk about what services you're offering currently right now if someone was to be listening and wanting to work with you?
Yes, I would love to. So if someone wants to work with me, they can find my Instagram at Ave_Bay. No, I'm sure we'll put that somewhere. I'm currently offering 60-minute sessions, healing human design readings. So we will, like I spoke earlier, go through your chart, do Reiki, and then I will send you with some implementation steps. So we can work with that we can do a session like that. And then I'm going to be opening myself up to work with people in a mentorship way as well. So if you really enjoyed us working together in that 60 minutes, I'm going to offer you an extension and we can get together and check in with each other once a month. And during these sessions, we'll kind of see how you're doing with your human design, right? And how your empathic gifts are strengthening. So that's what I really want to do, is really help strengthen empath gifts using the human design system. So those are the two things I'm going to be offering. And then I'm also going to be offering a free workshop at the end of March, and it is going to be called the Empowered Empath, and we're going to be going over the energy centers and how you can instantly start setting boundaries for yourself.
I cannot wait to attend that, actually, by the way. I've been studying human design. I can't say studying, but I've been aware of human design and I've read the book. I've tried studying human design for the past 2 years. It doesn't work for me. I have to be taught by a healer such as yourself. So I'm excited to be attending that workshop and learning more, because I don't think you can learn enough about human design, because our energy is so important, especially when we are here making an impact. What vision do you have for healers? How do you see healers impacting the world?
That question. I see healers impacting the world in a way that, like you said earlier, ripple effect, all right? And in a way that is so, so, so strong in quality and not necessarily quantity. That's how I see healers impacting the world. So making sure that their community and their tribe is just so taken care of and so on a high vibration level, and that just ripples, that just continuously ripples, seeing that day by day, just healers continuing to be themselves and taking the love and the light that they hold in themselves and the lessons that they experience and spreading it out through, whatever the way that looks for them, through social media on their day-to-day basis, as they go into the office, however that looks for them. I think healers are setting up the next generation to be something super powerful. Like, this is really a turning point in the evolution of human beings, I believe, where we're going to start shifting from using the mind to using the body and the intuition as ways of making our decision. And we're going to be more connected with spirit, and we're going to be more connected with our gifts as as human beings continue to evolve past our generations. That's where I think we're going towards, is a more individualized, unique aspect, and knowing that everybody is meant to be a little bit different. And that's like such a beautiful thing.
So the question I like to ask our healers who come on to She Who Heals, and this is the first time I'll ever be asking it, hopefully not the last, we'll see how it is for you. What is your future self telling you right now?
Oh, my future self is telling me that I'm really, really amazing. She's like, you are so powerful. You can't even see the effect you have on. I'm going to start crying.
Perfect. I love this question.
You can't even see the effect that you have on people around you. And I'm so happy that you're finally starting to see the little inklings of joy that you bring into the world. That's what I have to say.
I'm like pausing, waiting. Is that it? That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I'm so happy and grateful that you were stepping into your gifts and your power because, again, I've experienced your healing and I've spoken to those who have experienced your healing, and you're truly transforming lives in the most powerful way. And as healers, we don't always receive that confirmation from our clients, but that ripple effect is stronger than any face-to-face or feedback we could ever experience. So thank you for all you do. And before we go, is there any last minute message you want to share with the audience of She Who Heals?
Yes. I want to tell anybody who has been called sensitive or maybe dramatic or emotional that you are not, and you're not a burden, and it's okay that you feel intensely, and what you feel now is actually your biggest superpower. So don't give up. Seek people who want to hold you and love you just as you are.
Thank you, Avree. Thank you for being on the show. It was such a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share, and provide a review to help us expand. And if you share us on your social media, please tag us. We love connecting with you all.